today, it's fine.
Okay.
All right, gang.
So there's,
Yeah.
different ones, I guess.
Move on, let's put the workshop here.
All right.
Anything else, Mr. Renard?
I have to change gears here, Mayor.
Yes.
No, I don't think I have anything else to report, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Ariane?
I have no report, Mayor.
Unfinished business? Do you have any unfinished business out there? Not really?
Not that I know of.
New business, so there's a special new business during the meeting. Okay, Council President Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two things. So, our next meeting is July 8th. I can either attend the meeting or attend my wedding. I think Paul would rather I attend my wedding. So, I will not be at the next.
I don't know, I got a
I
smoke
don't
over
know,
here.
maybe he'd rather I attend the meeting, I don't know. I will not be at the next council meeting. So,
Write that down. You're in trouble.
You get married here.
And I won't be here, Paul.
Lou will not be here. So,
The one meeting I'm gonna miss.
I know that sometimes we cancel meetings during the summer. I don't know if Tina has a lot on the agenda. I was gonna ask if maybe that could be one of the summer meetings we canceled. I was gonna-
There is nothing planned for that agenda at this point in time.
I understand there are other vacations planned as well,
Is there other vacations planned as well?
non-council members.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be on vacation?
No, I won't be on vacation that week.
Okay.
But that's the week before we're on vacation, not July
Okay.
8th.
All right.
But,
I mean, Mayor, my take on that is we generally do cancel one meeting
Yes.
in the summer. If that's the one, I would just ask, can we all make the other three? If we can all make the other three, then let's just make that the one.
Cancel that one.
July 22nd is my birthday, but I'll be here. And,
So wait a second, we're gonna cancel, we're gonna have 2 meetings in August?
that's what we're saying. Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
I'm fine with 2 meetings in August.
I remember a long time ago, by now it's probably 4 years ago, that one meeting in July and one meeting in August were both canceled.
correct.
But we haven't done that in a while, and I don't,
No, and with good reason.
right, and I don't support going back to
Yeah.
that, just for the record,
Yeah,
but,
we have, there's a big kerfuffle. But,
Right.
you know, the only thing I say, and this is really, again, I'm a stickler for precedent and things like that. I don't like setting the precedent of individual council members are gonna be away for very valid reasons. And then we go ahead and decide to cancel the meeting. I'd rather have the meeting, and if we're gonna cancel a meeting, let's cancel a meeting and, you know, deal with personnel as it is. So, I mean, if I show up and say, hey, I'm not gonna be here, and it turns out one other person's not gonna be here, we're gonna cancel that meeting too. I just don't wanna set that precedent.
I don't think you said it present at all. We generally don't have, there's one meeting in the summer, we cancel.
The second
That's
meeting,
the one.
no, it's not, it's the second meting in
Oh,
August.
we're gonna keep the second
We
meeting.
have
on.
canceled the first meetings.
Yeah, we have
in years
canceled the
past.
first meeting.
Not when you were councilman.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't, you know what I'm saying, I don't like that. If we're gonna cancel a meeting, let's cancel a meeting like the second one in August. I would be okay with that if there's nothing else coming up. But just because 2 council members are not gonna be here, I think that sets a bad precedent.
Can we vote on it? How do we do
There
this?
will be a resolution, it's by resolution of the mayor and council.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I would say this too, quorum's 4 of us, right? So, and, you know,
Well,
Mayor will be here too.
Okay, I understand that, but if you're gonna cancel a second meeting in August just for the hell of it, because it's the second meeting of August, and here you have 2 people that aren't gonna be here at a meeting, wouldn't it just make more sense to cancel a meeting that you know 2 people are not gonna attend?
But
When
do we know for a fact everyone's gonna be here second meeting in August?
Well, I asked.
Well, yeah, the last, and we all said that we would be.
We will be here second meeting in August?
I plan to be on, at all 4 meetings this
Yeah,
summer,
I
so.
plan to be at all of them too. So,
So
again,
do I.
if somebody who plans to be here for all the meetings, I'd rather just have 2 meetings each month. I don't wanna cancel it based on personnel. That's all.
I do have a resolution deleted from the consent agenda to be read that you can vote on, and you can decide it by vote. if you so-
I mean, we can decide it later, but personally, I mean, I support more meetings than less always, so even if it's a short one or whatever, because there's fewer reports given that night, that's fine by me. I'm inclined to
You
have
have a
the meeting.
resolution, you have a resolution ready to vote on?
Yes, I do.
All right, why don't we just handle it at that time? Or,
Okay.
all right, and if somebody votes yes, then it just dissolves the other way.
Okay.
All right? No, not anything else?
Oh, yes, Mayor, as I've been asking you for the last few meetings that you had mentioned, that you would create a committee about, the
It will be
parking
handled
issues.
under new business.
Okay, very
Under
good,
regular.
thank you very much, that's all I had then.
Okay. Councilman Martin,
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilman Matthew?
Yeah, I just have one question, and Council President Connell reminded me. Wasn't there some type of process or procedure committee that was put together? It was Council President Palmer, Councilman Martin, and you, Mayor. Whatever became of that, and where are we with that?
For what?
You
I
said
didn't hear the beginning of what
the
you said.
procedure, there was some, I forget.
Special Procedures Committee. that you
Special
created.
procedure, that, okay.
We
yeah.
did, and we did meet once, myself, Councilwoman Palmer, and,
It was just the two of you at the meeting?
no, and, Ms.
Diana.
Diana, thank you. We have had a meeting, we just have not had the opportunity because of personnel issues to schedule another to go further. That's where we are. But it's not dead.
Is Councilman Martin on that too? You were there, right?
No.
No? You
No,
didn't
he
go?
was not able to attend the one meeting.
He's on, but he did not attend.
But he's on.
We've only met once.
You've only had
Yeah,
one.
we only met once, and then we had other things that were going on that.
So do we have like a timeline or anything like that? And that's gonna be,
No, because it's not, under certain circumstances, now that will be changing, certain things. So, when we get to that.
okay. I think that's all I have.
Councilman Mearsclaw.
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have a Streets and Roads Committee report later on, so I'll just read a couple things right now as a councilman. With Flag Day last week and Independence Day coming up in 2 weeks, I remind everybody the American flag drop box located in Center Street above the brook. I want to publicly thank former Councilman Tim Hack, who has volunteered his time to empty and bring the flags to the Kenilworth VFW. The VFW commander advised me today that he has 3 pickup trucks full of flags, and that they are arranging a July 4th retirement burn ceremony for those flags. So Kenilworth collects them from Union County, from Kenilworth, and from us, and so that was a very good thing I think we developed. I'm pleased to announce that 3 new recycling containers have been located at Washington Olympic Schools through the use of Clean Community Grants funds. There should now be equal garbage and recycling containers at each school. I want to remind everybody once again the free wood chips are available at Eastern and Will Avenue near DPW yard. Residents can pick them up any reasonable time. I asked if maybe that can actually be placed in the paper, because I don't think people are aware of it. If we can let them know, that'd be appreciated. Mayor, I'm going to also ask, I'm sorry, one more thing. I'm not sure if everybody's aware of the flagpole on Center Street that was destroyed by a driver who left the scene of the accident. But the DPW is looking into the cost of buying a new one. The initial estimate's around $2,000. About $2,000. Yeah, I imagine it's just, so we'll see how it happens. And Mayor, to ask a couple other things. I ask every 2 weeks the emergency management plan. And then on top of the status of it, I recognize that back in January there were 3 openings on the committee. Are they still open?
I don't have any idea if those exactly are still open, as I made some referrals on a couple of those positions. Specialized. However, our Officer of Emergency Management, Mr. Garner, a meeting had developed with the county that he attended in June. About 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. They are, I think I'm gonna explain this. They had to not revamp, but make some changes within the countywide emergency management plan, which necessitated each municipality sending someone, be it police chief or the director of emergency management, to this meeting because they're rewriting their plan to qualify for certain aspects of FEMA. It involved us, even though we had the plan, it was ready to go, it was submitted, needed a little bit of tweaking. Then this meeting came up and it was bumped back to us again for it to fit in with the county's requirements for FEMA. That's where I am right now. Mr. Garner had submitted the plan and there were just a few things that needed to be changed. I believe that he had to gather additional information that was not in our plan. This is how he explained it to me. I can send you, Mr. Neerstad, a copy of the letter which explains what the meeting and the reevaluation of the county plan is and how the towns are now expected to fit in with it. So in answer to your question, we were basically done. He submitted it, he went to the meeting, it was bumped back, and now there's some additional things that we have to come forward with. So, we're kind of like in a catch-22, we've got ourselves in a catch-22 thing.
I work for government, I understand, you don't even have to work for government to understand things change and come back down. I'm glad to see we're making progress. It's just, this is really, we've been without one now for 2 years.
We've been without one for more than 2 years, we
Okay,
didn't have one
well,
before.
I appreciate that correction.
Thank you.
We need to get this done before hurricane season starts again in the fall.
Now it's in the
I
hands, now
hope
it's in the hands
Mr.
of
Garner is
the,
able to do that.
now it's in the hands of the county.
Well, no, it's back in.
Well, some things are here, but a lot of it's back in the hands of the county.
All right. I know you've let Emmett know that I asked.
Oh, yes,
so
no, I
he
can
didn't-
speak with them, and there's some other concerns regarding,
Okay.
another issue.
Yeah, right, you can let him know too, that's
No,
right.
I
Knock
do
on
let
the
him
door.
know over the fence.
That's right, that's right.
So,
Last but not least, Mayor, the PSE&G study, the trees.
the PSC&G study is at this point, they are not actually the ones driving the bus. The people who are driving the bus are the BPU. And, we have submitted, if I understand, not yet, but we are
I can
working on the
answer.
hazardous tree.
I'd like you to answer because I'm now,
Yeah, go ahead.
my answer.
Yeah.
I'm in contact with the representative from PSCAG, and he did come in, they did come in without my knowledge and evaluate the trees. They have a list of trees that they think they need to remove. I have a list of trees that needs to be removed. My list is being tweaked. We're gonna combine our
So
list.
we are moving.
We're gonna combine our list and see if we have any duplicates on the list, and then we'll take it from there. The man's name is Jay, I think, and we are in communication.
All right, can you do me a favor? What is the quadrant that they're actually looking at?
They didn't do quadrant, they did.
They did the whole town?
They just, he didn't say they did a quadrant, he said they didn't, I said it to an area. And then I noticed that some of my trees were really badly hacked up, and I said, yeah, they did that. They didn't take them down, but they cut them. And I told him, you need to stop doing that without
That's
talking to me
right.
first.
The Shade Tree Commission regs, which I wrote, required that they contact us. And it says it, so.
It still says it?
Oh, it says it. It says it.
They don't always.
Because I used to meet with them before they
Yeah.
cut.
Sometimes they come in beforehand and they meet with me, sometimes they just come and they just cut the trees.
All right, well, I'm glad to hear we're moving. If they did the whole town, that's great. And Mayor, that's even
I
better
believe they did.
than you
He
had.
didn't say that they isolated it to any particular area.
Yeah.
Well, because the other
and-
towns that are involved are much larger than we are.
Right,
So
right.
our whole town would be equal to one of their quadrants.
That's good to hear, that's good to hear. And if they're gonna actually, do the work, that's great. Tina, just please impress upon them if you can, they are required, and we're not the only town that requires them to come in, before they do any work. So remind them that before they start cutting leaves out of trees. I specifically planted Japanese pagodas on Center Street years ago, because they don't have central leaders. That's why they were chosen, and they came in and they knocked out all the branches anyway, so I don't want to, they infuriate me,
Anything else, Mr. Mayor?
So that's it, Aaron, thank you.
Can I just ask one question, Mayor? Yeah. Bill, did you notice if your flag mailbox has been bolted down yet?
I try not to make that public. They originally wanted to put it in the grass next to the post office, and we didn't find that to be acceptable. The answer to your question is it is not bolted down.
Okay. Sorry, just don't want to find out one
I
day.
don't want to find any creepy, that's why I don't bring it up.
Okay, sorry.
The Lions mailbox. Mr. Inspector, Councilman Piccarillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have a prepared statement. And I know a few council meetings ago, I brought up the issue of what's going on with the roof here. So, let me just get through this. It's not there. An informal estimate of $60,000 for the roof repair has been received by Fannie Roofing. Also, a proposal to replace the damaged carpeting was received from Franklin Floors. The cost for the damaged area is $2,760. And for the adjacent office is another $3,585. The incident has been reported to the insurance company and an adjuster has inspected the claim. However, a determination is still pending. In order to repair the roof, an emergency resolution for $70,000 authorizing the expenditure has been prepared for council consideration. The resolution is deleted from the consent agenda and will be read in full under resolutions deleted from the consent agenda. Also, the traffic light on the corner of South Avenue and Center was ripped out by that tractor trailer on June 20th. The matter has been referred to the insurance company for pursuit of the driver's insurance. The borough will pay for the replacement and will be reimbursed minus our deductible. The insurance company will pursue the deductible, but it could take some time. In order to authorize and repair the replacement of the traffic light, an award to Gen Electric for this work was approved by Chief Underhill in accordance with the law and policy. There is an emergency resolution for $40,000 authorizing this expenditure prepared for consideration this evening. This is being done as a precaution in the event that the insurance payment is not obtained prior to the end of 2014. It is not anticipated that the funds for this will actually have to be raised in next year's budget. And there is one other thing that I want to bring up. We have the issue with the rats that are popping up around town. I know that they're on Hazel. There's been sightings on Hemlock now. And I know Buildings and Grounds has been kicking this around, trying to figure out for spraying and whatnot. The spraying of the brook pretty much just kills the vegetation in order for them to set traps, okay, so to speak. Not so much traps, but to put powder down in order, to get to the rats. Tina, maybe you can answer this. Do we have somebody who goes into the brook to actually see if that's where the rats are coming from, or?
When we get complaints for the rats, somebody calls the Board of Health.
Right.
They go in and they send an exterminator and he does go in the brook and look for the burrows.
Right.
Like let's say I identify a particular cluster of houses. He goes in the brook, he looks for the burrows, and that's where he puts the police.
Right, but now these houses are not near the brook.
Right.
This is Hazel and Hemlock, where rats are popping up and we're finding dead ones in the street.
Well,
So, I'm just trying to ascertain whether or not if they're coming from the brook.
It could be, I don't know where they're coming from.
They're long.
It could be somebody has something in their yard that they're attracted to. But if we report to the Board of Health, they'll take it an issue because it's a health hazard.
Okay.
But I haven't reported that to the Board of Health, I didn't know about that.
Well, the ones on Hazel have been reported to the Board of Health.
Somebody told me.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may, I did have a little bit about the rat issue in my Board of Health report, but I think it just makes sense to talk about it now, to be honest. And at our meeting last week, I brought this issue up again, and I've been in contact with the inspector from the health department about this issue on multiple occasions. It seems to be in that area of the south side, being that it's so far from the brook, possibly the water company work is having an impact on that. However, they did say that, rats will move from location to location in search of food. So if they're not finding it in certain properties, then they will move further away. And just on my own personal time, I looked up exactly how many rats are created a year. And I found anywhere from one rat could have anywhere from 100 to 200 babies a year. So, just that alone, I guess, they say procreate like rabbits, but I guess rats are just as bad or something. But that to me, I mean, I'm no expert on the subject, but one would think that if the brook is a great place to live, that's not enough because their quantities are getting so great, maybe then they are moving throughout the town. Now, this is a notoriously tough time of year for rat complaints. They said it's not just Garwood, you know, other towns are getting complaints as well. But, you know, it's tough to see 100% correspondence between the brook and rats on Hazel or Beach or Locust, but when I hear those quantities, it just makes me wonder, you know, could it be related a little bit? Is there something we could be doing to help at least try to alleviate this problem? So I know a lot of complaints I've heard from residents, they've had the issue, they don't necessarily report it. I always tell them, hey, you should report it, but who knows if they do. Sometimes they've already hired exterminators for other creatures, you know, in their basement or whatnot, and they just tell their exterminator, by the way, I saw a rat, and they, you know, take care of it, but maybe the reporting is not 100% accurate as to what's really going on out there. I don't know, that's just my findings. I think eventually this will bubble into quite the discussion, but.
So basically then the solution for Hazel and Hemlock at this point would be to call the health department and have them go down the streets and try to figure out where the rats could be coming from, because, I mean, it's a pretty far walk, you know, from the brook for these guys to get this far. And the one that was found on my block was pretty tiny. I mean, it wasn't big, it was only about maybe 8 inches long.
I would think that, yes, we do have to call the health department and let the health department investigate. But if the rats from Hazel and Hemlock are going to the brook to do whatever they do, or coming from the brook, people from that area would also be complaining.
Well, yeah, just to mention, I know I spoke with Councilwoman Padusco and Councilman Petrozelli about this, I think Council President Palmer too. Just during the campaign, just because I was walking so much, I noticed some rat carcasses, and I can't tell you exactly where, but like Myrtle and Willow, and kind of close to the athletic field. And I can't swear exactly where it was, but I did notice a few. The other thing is, unfortunately, I come from a place that was the king of rats. New York has 7 or 8 rats per resident. Okay? The big thing the problem we had over there was garbage. And I look every Monday and Thursday right on my block. There are people who put their garbage out with no covers on. All right, that's feeding the rat population. To the extent that we can remind residents or perhaps enforce that, you go ahead and you keep garbage away from rats, particularly commercial restaurants. That was a big thing in New York. Restaurants would put stuff out at midnight. Private sanitation picked it up at 5. We were the only city in the world that fed our rats. That's why we had so many. And construction used to constantly scare them up. So we have a confluence of maybe several things that's going on. And it may not be necessarily from the brook. I don't care where it's coming from. I just want them gone. And anything that we can do, poisoning, spraying, to keep in our garbage in order, I'm for all of it.
And about 2 years ago, put out maybe farther back than that, wasn't there a letter that went to the residents with regard to reminding them? Sorry, Alan.
I don't think we did a town mailing.
I remember something about, keep.
There was something a few years ago that you had to have lids on your cans and you could not put garbage out in just bags.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It wasn't with the regular mail?
Yeah,
something
about
about
rats.
Okay, I'd have to check, and I'm not recalling, but it's possible we did that.
Just to add, with the Board of Health, the reports they get from the health department, I mean, I'm seeing on here Spruce Ave, Beach, Pine, another home on Pine, 3rd Avenue, 2 Willow Avenue, Locust, I mean, we're talking Hazel, Locust. I mean, essentially all over. It's
So-
not that it's not by the brook, but it's also in other locations
So
as well.
can we get somebody into the brook to at least see if maybe they're starting to make burrows and they're just
Well,
running
you
along?
want to hire somebody, or you just want to use the Board of Health? Then, when you use the services of the Board of Health, he goes in and he goes for the problem. He doesn't go to the whole brook and bait the whole brook. That's
Well,
probably
how does he
not.
find the problem then? I mean, how does he find the
I don't know
burrows?
where to go.
He's an exterminator. He knows what to look
No.
for.
Well, then,
I would-
can you
we-
do it now?
Basically, when there's a rat complaint in the brook, it's isolated, like, it's in front of such and such address, or the complaint comes from a person, so they
So can he do that now?
But you're telling me they're on Hazel and,
No, that's not Lou's question.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, my question
You
is-
asked me to do the whole brook.
No, he didn't.
Well, I'm asking for someone to actually investigate the brook. I mean, whether it be the whole brook.
I don't know if the Board of Health, our contract with Westfield provides that service. I don't know that. I have to find that out.
Yeah, because I think maybe we should, because if that's where they're
So
coming from. and
you
they're-
want to find out if they'll inspect the entire brook for Borough, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes, no?
yes.
Got it,
Yes.
for rat burrows.
So let's not put blinders on, I mean, this may be coming from somewhere else, that's the only thing I'm saying. And why is it centered on the south side? I mean, you had one complaint from the
Only
north
one
side.
on the north, yeah.
But why is it centered on the south side, it's kind of strange.
But
There
again,
is a
that
brook
water
in front.
company work,
They got.
maybe it is,
You know,
I mean, I
on the
heard
poor
an
side of town.
exterminator that was hired by a citizen, just privately on his own. The exterminator felt like because they're changing the pipes, that they're disrupting their homes and.
And that's correct. I mean, Jim, I agree with him 100%. It's not water, it's not the brook, it's food. Like every other being, it's food, shelter, and water. That's what they need. I don't want to make this whole meeting about rats. I had one in my backyard 2 years ago, okay? We were doing construction. There was all kinds of stuff in the backyard. When I cleaned it up, never saw it again. It's food, it's a place to hide. We don't have to, spray drinking water with chemicals to get rid of rats.
I can
Going back to that.
I can look and see what we did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
We sent a letter, it's
I
gonna be
remember
under,
getting it.
find it. I'll send it to you all, you can look it over if you want to do something like that again.
Sure.
I don't know, I can't recall if that helped or not, seems like it must be
Well, it
quite a
helps
few
if
years
it's
ago.
enforced, and I know
Right.
Ann particularly had contact with DPW and police about, hey, cite the residents, you give them a warning, give them a warning first, maybe 2, okay, but then after that, don't pick up the garbage or ticket them, do whatever. And we have to do that. That's it, it's a problem, it's a health issue, ticket. There are people who still put out garbage in bags.
Yes.
Sorry, 1 notice, maybe 2, then you ticket.
All right, I'll send you guys the letter that we did a few years ago. Comment on it when I send it to you. Just don't comment to each other, only comment to me.
Right.
Okay?
See what we can do, perhaps with the water company finishing up, it will be one thing to
That's true.
be able to discourage. Councilwoman Zibisco.
Thanks, Mayor. I just have 2 quick items. The first one, the bus stop that was recently installed by North and Walnut in front of the bank, it's actually, it appears like it's on the sidewalk, not set back like the one is that's by Millen property. I'm wondering, was that intentional because they didn't have a choice? It just seems
I have no idea, they come, they install it, it's their
Okay.
property on the public sidewalk, so I
Right.
don't know.
It's just interesting they put that concrete slab for the one in front of paperboard.
But there might
over there.
have been more room to put the
Right.
fence without moving onto the private
Right.
property at the back.
Do you have contact with them that you could just ask and see if that's just what they typically do and, it's kind of too bad if it is, I guess? I mean, I don't know that they're going to want to move it, but it seems like it's a little, it's a good thing to have,
It
but
does
its
get-
location's a bit
huge,
odd.
no,
They typically do put them on the curb,
Yeah.
because they don't block the sidewalk further back. Typically, it's not odd, that is where they're placed.
Okay, but it's still set back enough, I don't know. Well, we could take a look at it.
We want to step back a little bit in case something.
Right.
So,
Sure, and
no, they
then,
don't have something that's there.
okay. And then, the second item I had, another item from my Board of Health meeting, so that will be a short report. Basically, it was brought to our attention that the county did not bring up the issue of whether or not to completely reimburse municipalities for its TB program. I mentioned this a few months ago. I had gone to some county meetings and spoke with the freeholder and spoke with the public safety director, who said that he was making that recommendation for the committee, but it never got out of committee for a vote. So they do pay some, they pay about, let me see what it is here. They pay 20% of the total bill. So basically, we only pay a minimum amount of $1,000 annually, but Union County is the only county that does not reimburse the municipalities 100%. So in total for the whole county, it's about $140,000. So they basically only pay about $27,000 of that. For Garwood, it's only $1,000. For other municipalities, obviously, it could be a much larger amount that could be reimbursed potentially. So what I brought up at the meeting, and the Board of Health seemed to, support, maybe the council could do a resolution that we could send to the county, just putting this on their radar that we would like them to reimburse us 100%, and then we could copy the other 20 municipalities so that potentially they could jump on board, and then obviously nothing will happen overnight, but maybe in next year's budget, they will really take that issue.
Do you have some type of draft?
I don't have a draft, but
Any other town? No one's done this yet?
I don't believe so.
I mean, something if we could, I know Tina wants to have, specific direction on stuff. I mean, if we could direct Tina to do that, I'll support that.
Perhaps I could work with Tina and the Board of Health, the Health Department about that. Okay, so if we could work on that together, then maybe get something for every year.
Yeah, maybe the municipalities do this.
Okay.
Because it's relatively simple, whereas you funded this amount, you only
Right.
paid this amount, we want all of it.
Pretty,
Yeah.
I've never written a
Pretty sure
resolution
we're
before,
asking.
but,
I might be
I-
right here tonight.
right. If we're here longer, right?
If we're here
All right,
longer,
that's all I
I'll
have.
write it
All
for
right,
you.
thank you.
All right, public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the mayor and council? Please, yes, ma'am.
No one commented on his reports, there's two resolutions that I'm gonna read from the consent, and everybody's okay with them, nobody wants any, has any questions to ask?
Right, right, at that time,
Yeah,
resolutions come up.
can we have questions on the resolution? if they
Sure,
can read it?
yeah, but you don't wanna know anything beforehand?
No.
Alright.
No, that's all right. Go back to, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, sign in, state your name, full address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. It would be great.
Richard King, 412 Hazel Avenue. Good evening. This past Friday around 10 a.m., my neighbor had undertaken taking down a private tree on his property. After starting this project, he realized that he couldn't do it. He made a phone call to the DPW. Within 10-15 minutes, the workers showed up and proceeded to take down this private tree. I had spoken with the supervisor. I also contacted Councilman Gearstead about this. It was explained to me that the homeowner created a hazardous situation of which the town took a need to take the tree down for it. My question is, and I was also explained that he was willing to reimburse the town for the time of the workers. My question is, the thinking behind taking down a tree on private property opens up the town to liabilities of injury to the worker or damage to property, which I believe the town would be responsible for. Other things are including, if he's going to reimburse the town, at what rate would it be? And is this common practice for the DPW to take upon for a private homeowner? And if it is it available to everyone in town that decides they want to take down a tree in town and just start hacking it apart and say, I can't finish it, have the DPW do it at a reduced rate? I'm sure it would be much cheaper than hiring a tree service. So these are questions that I haven't had proper answers to, I believe.
Mayor, since I spoke to Rick and Victor and Fred Corbett, maybe I can put some light on it. First off, to answer the one question, no, Rick, absolutely positively not. This is not a service that's open to all residents, okay? This is a situation where homeowners started. Bottom line is, and I think it's important to note that it's a 3-trunked tree. And unfortunately, he didn't know what he was doing. And he put the V on the wrong side of the tree and didn't understand why that particular trunk wasn't falling. He was concerned about kids had a half a day that day. They were coming home. In all honesty, I think he should have reached out to the police first to see if it was an issue. He did make a mistake. DPW came out because they came out because they were asked to. And they looked at it and they felt, as you said, that hey, this is an emergency, that he has created a dangerous situation. They cut it with 2 cuts of the chainsaw and left. It's not something that's open to everyone. If someone creates a dangerous situation, it's up to the DPW to resolve it. I wish he called the police first. It could have made more of a public safety decision in the matter, but he didn't. In terms of what rate, the DPW superintendent has prepared the bill. He's being charged the rate at which the workers who did the work, is paid, and he will be asked to reimburse the borough for that amount. I don't know the amount, but he is preparing the bill for that time.
So what about as far as the supervisor down at DPW actually exposing the town to these liabilities of injury, personal injury to the workers, which the township would be responsible for, because they're on the clock, and property damage if something happened and took out a house or a car or power lines or whatever else could have been? I mean, how is that,
Well,
Dean,
first
how's
off,
that being
it's
being safe as a
It's being
supervisor?
safe because he's looking out for the public at large, and as you know, there were no cars, the area was already quote coned.
Okay.
As you know, there were no wires overhead.
There were wires right next to that.
When the tree branch came down, it fell in the middle of the street, as you know. Everything was blocked off. They felt that, because I've had extensive talks, they felt that it was more of a danger to leave it up with the number of kids, as you know, were on that block. They felt they had to get it down right away. He created a dangerous situation, and they wanted to resolve it right away.
And I think that the supervisor put the township in a dangerous situation to open up that liability for the insurance.
Can Tina answer the question about our employees being covered on private property?
They're covered in every shape, way, or form. If they got hurt, if they,
By the township.
they're on duty. They go on private
Right.
property all the time. They pick up the garbage. It's part of their job. If they're on private property or on borough property, they're still covered for the workman's comp or, God forbid, something of that nature. So that is not compromised, no matter where they are.
Even though they're doing work on private tree I mean, what's to stop anybody if wants to take a tree down and put a couple, like I said, put a couple hacks in and say, this is dangerous?
Well, I think
I
probably,
mean, it's,
the employee was acting in his mind, in the best interest of the borough, and not thinking about other things, and he has been addressed, and I don't think that any DPW worker would make the same mistake, so.
If I could just say, I understand what you're saying, that everything went right in this instance, that everything went right, but the principle that Mr. King's articulating is, what if these things had happened? I mean, had this thing gone ahead and taken out the neighbor's window or something, or done damage or hurt the neighbor, you would have had a very sticky situation there. So I think ultimately what you're getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I think it sets a bad precedent. It sets a very bad precedent.
liability.
Yeah, and like I said, everything did go right in this situation, but I think, Mr. King, you bring up a very good point. What if everything didn't go right?
It happens all the time in construction, and I see it quite often. Thank
Our
you.
employees covered, so. Anyone else? There being no one else, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn the workshop session?
Second.
All in favor? Yes.